Hi everyone, welcome to the Blue Sky seminar on transformational resilience. We're just waiting for a few people to come on board before we start the seminar, but while we're waiting, and they're definitely starting to come on board quite fast, I can see. I'd just like to introduce you to my business partner and colleague Diella, who's our questionnaire for the seminar, or the webinar, I should say. And
hello,
of course,
hello.
Sorry, what was that, Diella?
I'm saying hello, everyone, and I can see loads of people just joining us.
Yeah.
So great to see. So welcome, everyone.
And Diella's the questionnaire, because we've got questions and answers coming through, and Jean and I are going to be talking, and there's Jean in the corner there, and I'll introduce her in a minute. And so she'll be popping in and out with various questions that you have been asking us, and we felt that we'd try this way so that hopefully we can attend to those questions as they come in. Because while we're talking, Jean and I can get a bit distracted and forget to answer the questions. So Diella's coming in to help us on that. So the webinar will be streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and it's also on LinkedIn, so you're going to have access to that even after it's going to be recorded, and you can access it even after we're finished. Anya's given me a list of things that I have to do, our techie person. Lots of questions need to be answered, and I said that asked, and Diella will do that. And it's at the question and answer section at the bottom. And as I said, Diella's going to be quite an important role you have, Diella.
Thank you.
Right, welcome, Jean.
Thank you.
Now, Jean is a business psychologist and the director of QED services, and a very, very good friend of mine. So we've known each other, long time, Jean.
Long time, a very long time.
And over the years, we've had many chats about life and how to get, lots of chats about life, really. And one of the things that I love about Jean is that she has this wealth of knowledge, and you find yourself going down, you start with one question, and then you find yourself going on another path. And the discovery of learning is really part of what I really appreciate about you, Jean, is that you just have so much information to share. And hopefully today we can actually help those, because the context of the webinar today is all around transformational resilience, which is looking at us in adversity, which of course is lockdown. And really what we want to do at Blue Sky is help people frame up or have some strategies to moving forward into a world of uncertainty, into what people now know as, or call the unknown, the new normal. And we're hoping that at the end of this webinar, your words of wisdom, I'm not meant to say that, but your experience and knowledge and just ideas and thoughts, and from our discussion as well, that people will be able to think, oh gosh, that's something I can use. We're also going to be having a little, poll, is that right, Diella?
We've got a couple
that's going to be popping up in a minute. So if you could answer that poll, it's a very quick poll. Really, it's just about giving us a baseline of where you guys are at the moment, and that we are actually able to, in our discussion, address some of the questions and feelings that you're having right now. So part of our
it's probably a good time, Catherine, for me to launch that first poll now, just while
we're
okay.
That'd be great. Thanks very much, Diella. So while that is launched, we can start our little webinar, Jean. So I think we have a question, don't we, Diella?
We do.
Start off with.
Yeah, we had a question come in from a participant yesterday, and we thought it was such a good question that we were going to start the whole webinar off with Joan's question. So her question is, how do you, as a leader working within the system, support enabling transformative resilience of a workforce group when the learner culture of the broader organisation is at its infancy?
Wow. Jean.
Well, firstly, thank you for welcoming me, Catherine, and to all of you welcoming me and inviting me into your home. Now, it's certainly a very, very big question. And when I looked at it, I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to answer this? And what you need to know about me
I think
is
you're
that,
frozen, Jean. You've frozen up.
have I frozen up?
Yeah.
That's not very good.
No. Are you there?
Technology. Yes, I am.
Well,
I can
keep
hear
going.
you.
It's all good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now that's better.
Yeah, that's better.
Perfect.
So one of the things that I'd like you all to know is that I am not an intellectual person.
You're a wise person.
So when I looked at this, I thought this is a very, very big topic. And when we generally think about resilience, what we think of is something happening to a system, like a rod of steel, and it bends because of the weight is too much. How do we get it back so it maintains its integrity for further usage? But in the life that we're currently leading, we are not ever going to go back to how it was pre-COVID-19. So that's why I think that your title of transformative, you see, resilience is really, really important. And I think that your organization actually did deal with this topic maybe 2 years ago.
We did.
But more from an intellectual point of view.
Yeah.
So today, what I thought that we could do, Catherine, you and I, and maybe, you know, through the poll and other participant questions, is to see how we can actually use ourselves as the tool.
Yeah.
Whether it is to help ourselves only, or is it to help the family unit, the bubble that we live in, the community that we're part of, or at a greater societal level. So that's how I think that I generally would approach my life.
Yeah, because it does start with self first, doesn't it? I mean, the whole aspect of change or transformation. I don't know about, you know, transformation is such a heavy word. I try to think of, because it comes with a lot of emotional heaviness, you know, it just seems impossible. I don't know, I just find that I've never found another word to explain. It's more like a journey, isn't it, of learning, or what is it, Jean? I don't know.
Well, I certainly look at it and think it's our own ability, using ourselves to do little things with love and compassion. And I'm a great believer in the collective power of one.
Yeah.
So if we can do it together as a little group, then, you know, this will start to emanate and flow through whatever it is that we do. But we have to start with ourselves, because this is what our lives are governed by.
Our life is what our thoughts make it. True, true, true.
So, Catherine, you would have seen this sign coming many times to the bottom of my garden.
Yeah.
And as soon as you open the front doors to that cave, this is what I'm confronted with almost on a daily basis. So it's a reminder to me that I have the ability really to decide how my day is going to be, even when it's possibly one of the worst days that I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And so I don't...
Sorry, no, you go.
No, and I was just going to say, and you know, some days I don't make it myself.
Talk to me about that one. I think that, and I wonder if Diella's got the results of our first poll in. Diella, have you got the results of our first poll in? Because that's quite about where people are at. Hi, Diella.
Hi. So just to recap what the first question was, it was around feelings. So how are you feeling about the post-COVID-19 future? And you could have answered frustrated, angry, fearful, confused, or hopeful. So the good news is that nobody is feeling angry. So I thought that was fantastic. But what we've found is that the majority of the participants today are feeling a mix of fearful and confused. So Jean, how best can we navigate past fearfulness and confusion?
Big emotions, eh? Big emotions. Okay, one of the other things that I thought I might say before I even answer that particular poll is you're going to hear a number of different things throughout our time together. And rather than this just be an intellectual exercise, I thought that if you could actually listen to the discussion that Catherine and I are having from these perspectives, like ask yourself, what are some of the ideas that are being presented? Is this going to be worth doing? How can I connect this idea to my own life? What does it remind me of in my own life? What do I need to learn more about? You know, and what difference is this going to make to me? I know that for some of us, you know, we have to attend these sorts of webinars to put a tick in our box for the continuing competency license that we have. But if you're going to spend time here today, the invitation is to expand it and embody some of this information, because even if you took only one thing out of it, but chose to act on that one thing, my belief is that it will make a difference. It will make a difference to you. It will make a difference to the bubble that you're in and to the community that you belong to.
Great. So for us, which is part of why you and I are here today, and I think it's that expansion of opening ourselves. Is it a kind of the journey of learning about self and that sort of understanding what we need to do, what's tools, what strategies, what do we need to take that first step forward, which comes down to what is top of mind. It's a power of choice, really, isn't it?
And it's also how you reframe things. You know, reframing is one of the quickest strategies that we can use. So, for example, you know, Catherine, you would know, and some of you in the audience would have known that I had an accident at the end of October, which meant that I couldn't do a lot of things, having broken my left wrist in 2 different places. And every time I thought about it, I thought, wow, this is a long journey. I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things. And immediately I could feel emotions plummet in me. So no sooner do I recover from that accident than I'm entering this particular period. And for me, I don't refer to this period as isolation, quarantine, or lockdown. I have chosen to reframe this period for myself as rest, reset, recalibrate, and realign.
Right. The 4 R's. Rest, reset, recalibrate, and
realign.
Realign.
And you know, all of you would have a different way of being able to reframe it as being a positive experience, because as bad as things are, this period also has been a gift in a very, very ugly, wrapped up way. Right?
And that's where reframing comes in. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, right.
I think so. For too long, we have actually lived lives where we've hurried from one thing to the next. And we've not really thought deeply about who we want to be in the world. Well, guess what? We've been given the opportunity now. So we can't use the excuse, well, you know, the traffic was really bad this morning. So sorry, I'm late. You know, I had the kids to take to school. We can't use these excuses anymore. So it's a deeper question of who do we want to be in the world and stand up for that.
And that's, DL, have you got a question that,
yeah. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is just launch our second poll. It's a very short poll, so that's coming out now. But I thought that linked in really nicely with the question that we got from Amanda earlier on. And she's asking, is there a difference between how we navigate ourselves or our way through a personal crisis or a personal traumatic event and how we navigate through the COVID-19 crisis?
Contemplating, Jean.
Not frozen.
Not frozen. Thank goodness for that. Okay. So, many of you who know me, and even if you don't know me and you can see me, on your screen, you will see that I have got Asian heritage. My mother was, I don't know how you refer, to your mother who's dead and gone, who's still your mother. So I always say she was Chinese. And the Chinese have a saying which has crept into Western literature now. So if you're into organizational development work, you might have come across the phrase, wei wu wei. I mean, I'm sure that they say it better than I do, but it loosely translates into action without action. So as we go into this time of the unknown, the great, great unknown, it is really going to be important to be conscious of what is happening around you. So when you say action without action, what it really means is that you are so aware of your environment that you're in that at any point in time, you are going to be conscious to the correct action or actions that you take. So much so that when the time is right, things will unfold as opposed to unravel.
Right.
Yeah. So,
can you give me an example of what you mean by that? What that means?
Okay, so we all know, for example, that we are going to be born, grow up, grow old, retire, and die. That's basically the human journey. And for many, 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 many decades in our younger years, we've been told that you need to save, right? But many of us get distracted or seduced by various marketing strategies. But if we were aware of this human journey that ends in the same place for all of us, because death conquers all, and we know we have to pay our way, then the $10 a month that we save is actually going to be better than spending that $10.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And even when you're having a discussion with someone, how you respond to them. Are you responding to them in a conscious way? Or are you giving them an answer that is transactional? Transactional interactions are not felt here. Yeah.
Right.
They're
And
not
so,
felt here.
which is where which we were talking about before we came on to the webinar, is the emotional aspect, which probably relates back to the first question that we had from Joan. And we were talking about that emotional connection and how important that is today and
That's
now
right.
as a result of COVID-19. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that conversation we were having? Because I think it's relevant. In my opinion.
In my opinion, okay, Catherine, in my opinion.
Only in my opinion.
I did say that I believe in using self as a tool, very, very much so. And the other thing, again, borrowing from Chinese culture, which by the way, I don't read, speak, or write. But I came across this word from a local born New Zealand Chinese person, and she was saying how the Chinese language is very pictorial. And when you are actually inviting someone into your home or into your life, it actually looks like two people standing by the door. And that symbol translates to, I stand by the door and invite you in. Together, we have heartfelt conversation. So you can imagine if you're a leader or your leader speaks to you in this way, your level of emotional engagement will immediately be there. And then, of course, over time it grows or it gets depleted. So if we look at New Zealand in its current situation, what Jacinda has done, irrespective of whether we agree with her politics or not, what she has done is she has appealed to us in this heartfelt way.
Right.
Not for the betterment of a part of society that's going to save us, but for all of us.
Yeah. And that's where that connection comes into the emotional element.
Yeah, and I think If you're a scientific evidence-based person and you like to have data, I believe that the research shows that if I am emotionally engaged with you as a leader, I will find an extra 25% of resources, be it energy, time, commitment, whatever, to deliver what you've asked for. And of course, if you're in the commercial sector, that all translates to the folding stuff, right?
Yeah. So for organizations today, I mean, for the leaders and for the people trying to figure out where to next from a business perspective, that emotional connection is key to their success or survival.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I really, really think so. I think that everyone by now would have heard of the term VUCA, however, you know,
Oh, no, it's not. No, not everyone.
Okay, so let me test your knowledge, and Catherine, what does it stand for?
I don't know. Volatility, yeah, uncertainty. I forgot. Adaptability.
Yeah, complexity and adaptability. Okay, so
yeah, let's talk about that because yeah, I do know about VUCA. Yeah, but some of us might not know it.
Okay. So I had never come across this term before, but I first came across it maybe a decade ago, and I came across it from a US perspective where they use it as a military term. And I thought, wow, you know, this actually makes sense to me. But over the years of thinking about this particular term, what I discovered for myself was that every time people talked about the VUCA environment or the VUCA situation, all it really did for me was that it created a rising anxiety.
Words do that, don't they? That's for me transformational. That's exactly what happens, is that fear of anxiety around the word.
And I thought, well, you know, as much as this word is used quite blatantly and widely now in the layperson's world, there was a way that I had to reframe it for myself. And the reframing that I'm going to share with you now is not original. I very much believe in the serendipitous nature of life. And no sooner had I decided that I had to reframe it, even if it was for my own mental health, right? Forgetting about, you know, the fact that I also have to help client organizations navigate, you know, quite difficult periods. And I understand now that the word VUCA, it comes from the Zulu language, and it means to wake up. And I love that because, you know, to me, I think the world is being asked to wake up now.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so, you know, we need to wake up to new ways of doing things. How do we do wisdoming, which all of us, you know, have the capacity to do? How do we demonstrate compassion towards, you know, others in the community, but firstly to ourselves? Because remember that I cannot be compassionate towards you if I need it first. And then
That's
how do we
true.
adapt? Yeah. So I love that, you know, Zulu word now. To me, it speaks to me.
Yeah.
And so to the audience, you know, what I'm saying to you is whatever you hear, anything that speaks and resonates with you will be something that you can then take out of the webinar and put into your life.
And apply to your life. So getting back to the reframing, that is probably a key tool, isn't it, to getting a baseline of how do I move forward. I mean, if you're going to do anything, I think from my perspective, it's around in that quote that you put up, you know, our life is based around, how we live our life is based around our thoughts. So that reframing, our life is what our thoughts are, right? And I know that for myself, it's 100% true. And that reframing strategy, can you talk to how do you start doing that? I mean, for many of us, there are some of us I know are great at it and do it every day in their life. But for us who are starting off on this journey of self-discovery, of learning who we are, of understanding what compassion is for us, what kindness is towards us, what are our emotions and how we deal with them. Can you sort of give some ideas around how you can start the process? What tool, how do you start is really what
How do I start?
Yeah, because I'm going from a baseline of, I've never done this before. I mean, even in leaders, understanding how important emotional connection is to the survival of their business and leading people through that. Reframing is a great way that they can start to become more connected with the emotion of self. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I can give you a direct answer to that question.
Oh, okay.
For me, I think that reframing happens more easily when you choose to work on who you want to be in the world. So I, for example, many, many years ago, had a professional supervisor that I spoke to every month, and I must have been bleating and complaining and bitching about something and blaming the world, for this unhappy situation that I found myself in. And she said to me, Jean, just stop. Just remember that in life, we do not have control, but we have choice on the interpretations that we give to the experiences that we're having, on who we want to be in the world. And when we know that, we have freedom. And I would say that that was a very profound moment for me in understanding, okay, so I really need to decide, if I say I want to be the best wife that I can offer my husband, then, I'm actually going to be having to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Or if I want to be this kind of professional, then I have to be this kind of person in behavior. And it's much, much easier when behavior and the inner being are quite close, are aligned, right? Because all of us can project something that we're not for a period of time. And I would suggest that this is what has got the world into a messy place, because it's based on reputation. But we really don't know what the true person is like. And then we get
that facade, isn't it? The facade of presenting what you think people want to see based on.
Yes. Yeah.
Diela, hi.
Hi. I thought you might all want to just get a little bit of an update about how we went with poll 2. So a recap of the question was, we are heading now into the post-COVID-19 new norm. Are you ready for it? Yes, no, or unsure? And I suppose the results aren't entirely surprising. We have got a fairly even split of participants that are saying they are ready, and just under 50% saying they're a little bit unsure if they're ready for the new norm. So Jean, how do we even contemplate starting this journey?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
It's big.
I'll leave that with you.
Goodbye, Diela. Oh, wow. That is a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one. So what I would say to that is that in order for us to navigate the journey ahead, one of the things that we can start to do for ourselves, which is free, by the way, is to bring a sense of calmness, into our lives. Because when we are fearful, logic doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's not how we are born as a human.
Yeah.
That's my basic understanding of human biology. One is that we're not designed for change. We are cavemen and women living in a modern day setting. Our brains look to predict, and the brains predict in order to keep us safe and to survive. But guess what? Our world has been upended. So for us, the first step I would always say is try and bring calm, abidingness into your life. And the easiest way of doing it is through the breath.
Yeah,
it's
so true.
So easy. We all have to breathe. So why not, breathe in a manner that is going to be useful for all of us? Because when we're in that calm state, we are going to be able to exercise this Wei-Wu way. So it's action without action. Yeah? Action without action. To be conscious. Because if we're anxious, what happens is that we lead our lives with blinkers. We cannot see anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shut down. And everything that we see in that play confirms what we think, doesn't it?
Yeah. And, one of the sites that you can go to for calm, abiding breathing exercises is M for multiple, braining, braining.com.
Oh, okay. We'll write that down and we'll send that through as well. Yeah.
Yes, that'll be good. And there are also other things that you can do to actually ease, your body and your mind and your soul, really. And one of the things that I will give to you, Catherine, to send out to the participants would be an article on things that we can do to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which will give us more of this calm, abiding feeling. And
can you just talk a little bit more about that how do you say it?
Parasympathetic.
Yeah. So what? Because that's what you're actually talking about, is working on that aspect, isn't it? Through calmness and stuff.
Yes, I think so. So all of us are born with an autonomic nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. Many of us will know about the sympathetic nervous system as I will fight you or I will flee. Well, right now, we can't fight anyone and we can't flee. In fact, our enemy worldwide is something that is invisible, which we never thought would happen, but it is happening. And then the parasympathetic is, the relaxing, the befriending, more the gentler side. And as a human race, if you like, we are born with a genetic predisposition already towards the sympathetic nervous system. Okay.
Right.
Because it had to happen, otherwise we would not be sitting here in the same room talking to each other, because our ancestors would have been eaten up by the saber-toothed tiger.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to breathe, so why not do it correctly or properly, to give us the calm, abiding feeling that we need in order to navigate the situation.
Yeah, and I am such an advocate of that from a personal perspective. And I think I've mentioned this to you a number of times, Jean, going through the loss of my parents. And that was shocking. So my body, I didn't really understand the impact, the physical impact of breath and what had happened to me. And there'd be times after, a couple of months after, I would have anxiety attacks and hyperventilate out of the blue. And if I got a fright or something happened, I remember one time in a car, I was coming onto the motorway and another car came and gave me a fright, and I just went into this panic. I couldn't breathe, and it was just frightening. And luckily I had a friend who was a physio, was a specialist in breathing, and I was talking to her about it, and she taught me, and I had no idea, because what I was doing was breathing from here. And so, and I didn't realize that I was not actually circulating breath in order to restabilize my physical, even the blood flow, the whole element. So every time something frightened me or a door slammed or anything, my body would automatically go into like this. And once I learned to breathe, And it was quite hard too, because you've got to reprogram your whole focus on breath. I didn't really understand what it meant until I personally had to go through it, and it's amazing. I use it all the time before, going into any anxious situation or when I feel anxious.
So it's nothing like a death, right? To say, pay attention, this is what you got to do. So on that note, some of you know that back in 2017, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune illness. Autoimmune illnesses, by the way, are on the rise in the Western world by virtue of us having overstimulated our sympathetic nervous system. It was a big surprise to me to be diagnosed with it. But anyway, I went with it because I had no choice. Did I take the drugs? Yes, I took the drugs. But one of the things that I learned for myself was that I had overstimulated my sympathetic nervous system to such an extent that it had given me quite profound illness, I guess, because I understand left untreated, it leads to major organ failure and premature death. And so all I did was I followed the regime of the drugs, but and I did a lot of breathing. I changed my breathing patterns.
Yeah.
Right? And I really made an effort to reinstigate my parasympathetic nervous system at a conscious level. And 15 months from that diagnosis, I do not have this condition. And I've been free of it longer than I've had it. And I would say that, you know how things happen serendipitously? So I also, during that time, or prior to that time of diagnosis, I had come across this model called embraining, which is really ancient wisdoming meeting neuroscience. Right. And I'd never heard of it before. Crossed my heart, never heard of it before. Went to the first thing because someone had said to me, you might be interested in this. Went, thought, it resonates with me, and started to, do a bit of reading around it. And then I discovered, okay, this is how I can actually manage and be an active participant in my own recovery rather than just taking a pill and leaving it up to a specialist or a doctor to tell me what to do or not to do. So that's my experience, if it helps.
No, that's amazing. And it's so true. It starts with us, isn't it? Ain't nothing going to happen until you start. Diallo.
I think the breathing conversation around the breathing has certainly got our participants really interested, and I've got lots of requests of people asking for more information about that. And a two-part question, I suppose, now is, with the retraining yourself with your breath, is that something that is something that just becomes part of how you breathe without subconsciously, or are you constantly having to think about how you're breathing? And then the second part of the question is, I'm getting quite a lot of people coming through a consistent theme of people feeling overwhelmed. So would the breathing or some part of this process help with those feelings of being overwhelmed?
Pretty much. I agree. In my opinion, I think that it would. I found it amazing to use. I'm not sure about, I don't know, what's your thoughts around the answers to those questions?
I, like the bulk of humanity, I guess, I would say, still lead my life quite unconsciously.
Yeah.
So when I decided that I had to do something and be an active participant in not only my recovery, but my life, what I used to do and still do is that I would start off in a very ritualistic way each day. So there'll be certain things that I would do, and breathing was one of them. So one of the other things that I also started to do was not to multitask.
Right. So what does that mean?
So I wouldn't, for example, unload the dishwasher, put the jug on, make the cup of tea, feed the cat, get my lunch ready. I would do it in a sequential way, and then I would have time to do my ritual for the morning, which would be as quick as 5 minutes.
Right.
And
Okay.
to me, rituals are important because all of us will strike days when we are too lazy or can't be bothered, or the weather's not good. We always have an excuse, you know, being a human, we always have an excuse.
Talk to me, Jean, I know that one.
And that's what I discovered. But I got into such a rhythm of doing it and still being able to start my actual work day at around 6:37. So I thought, well, this isn't too bad. And it got into such a groove that I had physically entrained our cat as well. So she would basically, you know, be with me through all these activities that I did one after the next for that set period of time. And if I didn't do it, she'll be like sitting there waiting for me. And then I'll think, oh yeah, she's my reminder that I didn't do this bit.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, those examples you're using are very basic, simple, you know, patterns of behavior that you just, or rituals as you call them, that you just follow. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate, you know, what we need to do. I think we make, and that's where the procrastination or the distraction or it's going to be too hard, it's too hard, you know, and dealing with that negative self-talk, because I'm the queen of procrastination. The only way that I can get through things is by, as you say, is having a routine or a ritual that I follow, and that for me is exercise. I just know that if I can stick to one thing and follow it through, that the rest of my day is going to be okay. And then,
I mean,
sorry, no, you go.
Yeah. And I think that if you look at any article around ritual, it tells you about how by engaging in the first step, it's much easier to then engage in the second and the subsequent steps. And it was also sorry.
No, I'm saying yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it was also a serendipitous time in that I had attended a weekend mindfulness retreat for psychologists. I can't remember what the year was. And in this retreat, all the peers, if you like, share stuff that they have come across which they found useful, or they've, you know, posed questions that, you know, cause us to then think in a different way. And someone stood up and taught us the Latifa prayer, which I had never ever heard before. And when the person stood up and taught us the Latifa prayer, I thought, wow, I didn't know that Queen Latifah was into this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Is that the movie star?
Yeah, I think she's the singer, you know.
Oh, yeah, she
is. Then I subsequently learned that the Latifa prayer comes from the practice of Sufism. So Sufism is the mystical arm of Islam. So many of us might not have heard of Sufism, but we know about Rumi. So Rumi, the poet, was a Sufi.
Yeah.
And when we were taught it, that exercise really resonated with me. So I have incorporated that prayer into my daily ritual.
Yeah.
So so if you want, I can quickly demonstrate it, and it doesn't even take 2 minutes.
Okay, please do.
Okay. I don't know, if I stand, you might not see me.
So I'll let you know. People will let us know.
Yeah, can you see?
No, we can't. We can only
see. Can't see. Okay, never mind. So your left hand cradles your right hand. Okay, so you can do it together with me. So put it first to the left hand side of your hip, and you say, I am. So this is related to the I amness of who you want to be. Okay, so I add the words, I am Jean, keeper of my soul. Okay. And then I take it to the right hand side, the opposite side, and I say, I hope, and in it, I say what I hope for, so usually it involves my children,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Now, obviously the slant is a bit different.
Yeah.
And then I hope, that what I'm wishing for will come to pass. And then this over here is I trust. And I always say, I trust that the actions that I take today will lead me and keep me on the aligned path. Right?
Wow.
Because this is, to me, giving feet to my prayers.
Yeah.
Right? I can't say to the universe or whatever I know one believes in, please help me, and then I don't do anything. and then I let go. I let go of expectations, timing, and then I love the current life that I have, and I'm ready and prepared, which is where the gut is.
Yes.
So to me, it resonated very much with embraining that I had already discovered, and I thought, wow, if I'm actually going to build upon the toolkit that I have, just like many of us, in fact, all of us in this webinar already have an existing toolkit.
Yeah.
My belief is that toolkits don't necessarily say anything that's different, but how it's languaged, how it's packaged, would suit some people more so than others.
Right. Wow, that's powerful. We can send that through those.
Yeah. So someone just make a note. So it's a Latifa prayer. It is this article on the vagus nerve.
Yep, Diella, got that?
That we can, this is a really, really good resource, because you don't have to read pages and pages of it. You can just look at it and you can think, oh yeah, okay. Now, if I want to really, start stimulating my parasympathetic nervous system, I can go and pat my cat, or I can ring a friend up or whatever. It's the start of something.
Yes, and that's kind of where it all starts. Is it having some tool like that just starts you moving forward? Just because it's not, and that's where I think it's a journey. And I really like what you say about, that whole finding information or aspects that just resonate with you, and then just going for it, because I think that, and that's where reading and talking to people, and hopefully this webinar has given people, as you were saying, little bits of insights, and to think just, oh, that sounds really good. What can I do to know more about that? Or how can that help me? Or maybe I could use that. I've read many, many books about growth, personal growth and self-awareness, and you've given me lots of insight and information, and we've gone off to on many journeys. Our Thelma and Louise journey there. We've done lots of stuff. We didn't go off the cliff though, but we did go off on lots of journeys. And I think that some are looking at my reading. I tried to read a number of books, like Eckhart Tolle's book, all those, and I just was like, And then I used to wonder, people rave about it, and they rave about these books, and I'd go, oh yeah. And then I'd pick up another book, and I go, oh, I read what was it? A book by recently on Susan David, Emotional Agility, and I just thought, oh. And I just loved what she was writing. And yet I've gone and read a lot of other positive psychology books around emotional resilience and stuff, and they've not clicked. So it's really important just to go with how you feel about it. If it resonates with you, go find it, go resource it and go act on it. And that's my advice anyway.
I mean, if you think about mindfulness, mindfulness was such a hippie gypsy kind of concept, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk, who's credited with introducing mindfulness to the West. And I don't know whether he's alive still, but if he is, he's a very, very old man now. And, when you even look at Thich Nhat Hanh's work, it's very, very easy to understand about being compassionate and what love is, not romantic love, but what love is, you know. So it's, I'm here, you are there, I'm here for you. And the last one, which we find very, very hard, is I am suffering, please help me. Because we're all being schooled and educated and primed to not show vulnerability.
And the moment we do, best ever, because then it opens up that power to be able to make change. Because the moment you step and open up to vulnerability, when I heard that, I think it was a Bruyne Brown thing. When I watched a TED talk, she talked about that. I was like, hey, I just opened up the door for me and just think, oh my goodness, that's hugely powerful to be able to have the courage to say, actually, I'm not doing too well here. I need to actually help out. Or even, you know, when just simple things in meetings or being around people where you think of something and where somebody is actually talking to you, and this happens a number of times, and you're thinking, I don't understand what they're talking about. But you don't say anything because because everybody else is nodding. But actually, if you put your hand up and say, I'm not sure what that's about, can you please explain it again?
Yeah. And obviously we don't have time today, but one of the things that I'm also interested in exploring is this idea of wisdom in the not knowing.
Yes, because that maybe is another time we could have another seminar, a webinar, and we can talk about that, because the uncertainty of life is very real, isn't it? And we don't know. Would that not be true?
Yeah. But it requires us to actually put aside a lot of the things that we already know. It invites us, if you like, to put aside all the money that we've spent on our educational qualifications.
Well, we didn't. We were lucky.
Yeah, I know that we are lucky. But the wisdom in not knowing is that it doesn't bind us, and it doesn't bind us to preconceived ideas, because I think everyone agrees that we're never ever going to go back to a pre-COVID-19 world.
No.
It's just not possible. And maybe the other thing also that I could do, Catherine, is to resend you that piece of creative writing that I wish I had written but hadn't written, and read very early on in the pandemic.
Yes.
To send out.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very thought-provoking as well.
Yeah. No, that would be great. So this has been an amazing conversation and chat. I want to say thank you very much, Jean. It's, as always, there's Diella. Diella, before we sign off, is there someone?
No more questions from the participants. We've had a lot of chat during the seminar that we've answered some questions for, but just to reassure everyone that we will be sending through a link of the webinar and associated resources, so that will be coming out sometime this afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Diella. You've done a wonderful job. Love the hair.
Thank you.
It was wonderful we had to decide what to wear. Usually it's just put on a t-shirt, and this morning it was like, oh, actually, what am I going to wear today? Which is interesting. So I think, we could go on for ages, and you've got such amazing things that we've talked about. But to recap, and to finish off here, what sort of 3 pieces of advice would you give to us, and those of us who are experiencing those feelings of, which we indicated, being overwhelmed, fearful, not sure about entering into the unknown? What sort of 3 things that you, based on what we've discussed today, that you can sort of impart with us as we finish up?
I'll give you 4. How's that?
Four, absolutely.
Okay. And it fits into the VUCA acronym.
Yeah.
And again, it's not original. It's something that I read and which I have then introduced into my life, in bits and pieces. when it's convenient, when it's going well, and then when it goes badly, I also tend to forget. So the first one is V. So what is your vision? What is your vision for who you want to be in the world? Because when we have clarity around who we want to be in this world, we're unlikely to let external events pull us off course. Okay? So that's
Right.
one. What is your vision of who you want
vision?
to be in the world? Then what is your understanding of your capabilities and strategies that you are going to take advantage of in this rapidly changing time that's all around us? I think the gift of the pandemic is that it's the same crucible that has been put upon the whole world almost at the same time. And with any crucible, we never ever leave it the same as we entered. So that's understanding. Then having the courage, to digest whatever you can take in, how you're going to integrate all the stuff into your core visceral identity, not reputation, not persona, not brand, but into your core visceral identity for alignment, so that you can take action, which is really the gut, Okay, now's the time to take action. And finally, how are you going to adapt, to the changing environment? So staying focused on who we want to be in the world, having the courage to integrate and to act on our strengths, our interpretation of what's happening. That's what the 4 things are: vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability.
VUCA. Adaptability. Vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability.
Yeah, it sounds so much better than the other definition, isn't it? And this is the period to awaken. So this is the invitation that the pandemic has given to all of us, to awaken.
To awaken. That's it. And that's a wonderful kind of finishing off of our webinar today. I think we might be having another conversation and another webinar and a chat soon, Jean, because you've got so many more things to add, and I'm sure there are people out there who are listening who would like to join in and hear more about strategies on how we can move forward and get to know self in a way that's going to enable us to live the best life we can in a world of uncertainty and not knowing. So thank you, my friend. It's been fabulous. Thank you,
Thank you for the opportunity.
Don't forget, you can download or upload on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so you can watch it then. And we'll say goodbye, and thank you, Diella, for being a fabulous questionnaire, popping in and out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And all the information we'll be sending, we'll also be sending a little short survey just to get some ideas around how you felt the webinar went, and also we'll be sending out information. So thanks, Jean. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll
thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.